নমস্কার। ইন্ডিয়ান কাউন্সিল অফ ফিলোসফিক্যাল রিসার্চের এবং রামকৃষ্ণ মিশন বিদ্যামন্দিরের যৌথ আয়োজনে আজ আমরা আইসিপি এর পিরিয়ডিক্যাল লেকচারের শুভ সূচনা করতে চলেছি। আমাদের মধ্যে আপনারা সকলেই জানেন, বক্তা হিসেবে উপস্থিত রয়েছেন অধ্যাপিকা রঞ্জনা মুখার্জি এবং অধ্যাপক D.M. তিওয়ারি। আজকের প্রথম দিনের যে সেশন, সেই সেশনের এই দুজন বক্তা রয়েছেন। আমরা শুরু করব আমাদের অনুষ্ঠান। প্রথম বৈদিক মন্ত্রোচ্চারণের মাধ্যমে আমরা আমাদের অনুষ্ঠান শুরু করছি। বৈদিক মন্ত্রোচ্চারণ করবে শ্রীমান নিতুন পাল এবং শ্রীমান সূর্য কুণ্ডু। আমি অনুরোধ করব বৈদিক মন্ত্রোচ্চারণের মাধ্যমে অনুষ্ঠান শুরু করবার জন্য।
ওম শ্রী গুরুভ্যো নমঃ। হরি ওম। সহনা ভবতু সহনৌ ভুনক্তু সহ বীর্যং করবাবহৈ তেজস্বিনাবধীতমস্তু মা বিদ্বিষাবহৈ। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। शं नो मित्र शं वरुणः शं नो भवत्वर्यः शं नो इंद्रो बृहस्पतिः शं नो विष्णुरुक्रमः। नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। मधुवातावितायते मधुक्षरन्ति सिन्धवः माधवेन सन्तोषति मधुनक्तो मुतो शशि मधुमत्पार्थिवगं रजः मधुरस्तु न पिता मधुमान्यो वनस्पतिर्मधुमागम् अस्तु सूर्यः माधवेन सन्तोषति मधुनक्तो मुतो शशि मधुमत्पार्थिवगं रजः मधुद्योरस्तु न पिता मधुमानो वनस्पतिर्मधुमागम् अस्तु सूर्यः माधवीर्गावो भवन्तु नः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। तत्सत्। श्री रामकृष्णाय अर्पणमस्तु।
এখন স্বাগত ভাষণ প্রদান করবেন পূজনীয় স্বামী একচিত্তানন্দজি মহারাজ, অধ্যক্ষ রামকৃষ্ণ মিশন বিদ্যামন্দির।
Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaaya. Respected Professor Tiwari will be joining us soon, or maybe he's there already. Professor Ranjana Mukherjee, Devendra Bharati University. Professor Kumar Mitra and Swami Chandrakanta ji are the resource persons for tomorrow. So my respectful namaskar, Shraddha to all the speakers. My namaskar and regards to Professor Samim Ahmed, the head of the department, and to Professor Shobhik Datta. Love and good wishes to all my beloved students. So I'm very happy that the Department of Philosophy has taken this initiative of organizing a two-day webinar on philosophy of man and language. And this is being sponsored by the ICPR, Indian Council of Philosophical Research. A very, very hearty welcome to all the distinguished resource persons on behalf of Vidyamandira family. This Ramakrishna mission Vidyamandira, the very term Vidyamandira was coined by none other than Swamiji himself, Swami Vivekananda himself. And to the core of Swami Vivekananda's philosophy lies human beings. Swamiji in his famous Practical Vedanta lecture underlines that the all-pervading consciousness, namely God, is there in each and every being, definitely, but he is prominently present in human beings. Human body is the Taj Mahal of all the temples, Swamiji says. So in that respect, this particular topic that has been chosen for the webinar is very much pertinent from Vidyamandira point of view. And then secondly, among the human faculties, intellectual and cognitive faculties, definitely Vak, our organ of speech, plays a very, very crucial role. In the Bhagavad Gita also, we find that Bhagavan delineating Kirti Sri Bhakcha Narina. Among the women, I am present in so many forms, and one particular form he mentions to be Vak, the organ of speech. And in the Saraswati Puja, mantras of worship, we also find that Same Vasatu Jivhaya, the mother resides in the tongue. So among all possible available faculties to human beings, definitely the organ of speech, in particular language, that plays a very, very distinctive role. So I'm happy that these two topics have been conjoined, and I wish all my best to the listeners, my beloved students, and hope and pray that this two-day webinar becomes a grand success, both to the research scholars as well as to our departmental students. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.
ধন্যবাদ মহারাজকে। এখন প্রারম্ভিক ভাষণ, ইন্ট্রোডাক্টরি অ্যাড্রেস প্রদান করবেন বিভাগীয় প্রধান অধ্যাপক শামীম আহমেদ মহাশয়।
নমস্কার। Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandir Department of Philosophy is going to organize a two-day periodical lecture on the philosophy of man and language. We know man is a thinking being, and without language, man cannot think at all. This is a general concept, but the exception, there is exception. Hence, man and language are very much interlinked. Man here is an inclusive term taken to mean the human being or humankind in general. The Bible views man existentially, not essentially. In the Bible, there is no dichotomy of body and soul. the man is the I, quote unquote I, who receives, feels, thinks, and loves. Thus, such concepts as soul, spirit, heart, flesh are all designations of the I under different aspects. The Bible teaches that man is the highest creature and the center of the visible universe. In the Old Testament, with Let, man's destination is Sheol or hereafter. In the New Testament, man's end is eternal happiness or sorrow. The term mon, M-A-N, man, basically this is a suffix. This is not this is a suffix. This is a root of the term manush or manov or monu. The term mon seems to be derived from a Sanskrit root meaning to think. Should this etymology be correct, it gives an indication that thought was early considered a distinctive characteristic of man. For the Greek anthropos, no convincing etymological explanation is given. Some consider it to signify the one that looks up. If so, this would express both a distinction and a certain kinship between man and the god. The etymology of the Latin homo is more certain. It is derived from humus, meaning earth or soil. The meaning seems to be either genetic, that man had his origin from the earth or was made out of earth, or more general, that man by his very nature is akin to earth. The same etymological connection and derivation is found in the Hebrew Adam, Adama. In Hindi, man is also called Admi. From such indications, one learns that on the one hand, man has an essential relation to earth, that he belongs to the earthly sphere below, and on the other hand, he is a thinking being, and so has contact with the gods, although he is different from them. This shows that man is something of a paradox. He is bound to earth by his nature and yet transcends earth by his mind. This kind of dualism, more explicitly expressed as that between mind and body or between soul and body, constitutes one of the most difficult and constant problems in a philosophical understanding of man. Language use is a remarkable fact about human beings. The role of language as vehicle of thought enables human thinking to be as complex, as varied as it is. The role of language as a vehicle of thought enables human thinking to be as complex and varied as it is. With language, one can describe the past or speculate about the future, and so deliberate and plan in the light of one's beliefs about how things stand. Language enables one to imagine counterfactual objects, events, and states of affairs. In this connection, it is intimately related to intentionality, the feature of all human thoughts, whereby they are essentially about or directed toward things outside themselves. Language allows one to share information and to communicate beliefs and speculations, attitudes and emotions. Indeed, it creates the human social world, cementing people into a common history and a common life experience. Language is equally an instrument of understanding and knowledge, and specialized languages of mathematics and science, for example, enable human beings to construct theories and to make predictions about matters they would otherwise be completely unable to grasp. Language, in short, makes it possible for individual human beings to escape cognitive imprisonment in the here and now. The evidently close connection between language and thought does not imply that there can be no thought without language. Although some philosophers and linguists have embraced this view, most regard it as implausible. Pre-linguistic infants and at least the higher primates, for example, can solve quite complex problems, such as those involving spatial memory. This indicates real thinking, and it suggests the use of systems of representation, maps, or modes of the world, encoded in non-linguistic form. Similarly, among human adults, artistic or musical thought does not demand specifically linguistic expression. It may be purely visual or auditory. A more reasonable hypothesis regarding the connection between language and thought, therefore, might be the following. First, all thought requires representation of one kind and another. Second, whatever may be the powers of non-linguistic representation that human adults share with human infants and some other animals, those powers are immensely increased by the use of language. Scholars from different areas of philosophy shall discuss on this topic, the philosophy of man and language. We are eagerly waiting. I sincerely welcome the speakers and listeners and thank all those who are directly and indirectly are associated with this lecture series. Lastly, I thank to ICPR who sponsored this program. Namaskar.
ধন্যবাদ স্যারকে পুরো বিষয়টি আমাদের সামনে তুলে ধরবার জন্য। আমাদের আজকের যে অনুষ্ঠান, সেই অনুষ্ঠানের যে বিষয় এবং সারবত্তা তাকে আপনাদের সামনে সংক্ষেপে তুলে ধরেছেন আমাদের বিভাগীয় প্রধান অধ্যাপক শামীম আহমেদ মহাশয়। Now I request Professor Ranjana Mukherjee, former professor Rabindra Bharati University, to deliver his lecture, her lecture on this auspicious topic. Madam, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Samim, for your so nice introduction of the topic. I convey my regards and gratitude to the principal of Ramakrishna Mission, Vidyamandira, for inviting me to present a paper in their periodical lecture series sponsored by ICPR. Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible? শোনা যাচ্ছে? আমার কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে? শামীম? I am also thankful to the head of the Department of Philosophy and other colleagues for giving me this opportunity. My dear students and participants, today my lecture starts with a question. The question is true or false redundant? And I think that in my whole discussion, my attempt is to revisit this question. F.P. Ramsey, in his redundancy theory of truth, says that true or false, the word true or false is redundant. By redundancy, what he means is that when we say that a statement is true, according to Ramsey, we do not say anything more. What we say, we assert the statement. And when we say that it is false, we assert the contradictory of the statement. But I critique this view, and by saying that the word true or false is not redundant. the word true or false is a descriptive predicate. What we mean by descriptive predicate, I will discuss later on. My view is that the word true and false, true or false, is descriptive because by using this word, by using the word true or false, we say something more. When I say that snow is white, I am stating something, that is, the snow is white. But when I say the snow is white is true, what I say, things are as is stated by the statement. So I say, or I am going to conclude in my lecture that true or false is a descriptive predicate. But when I say that true or false is a descriptive predicate, question top up here is that the question, descriptive predicate of what? Is true or false a predicate of a sentence or a proposition or a statement? There is a controversy among the philosophers as to this question. Some believe that it is a sentence which is true or false. Others say that it is a proposition which is true or false. And there are some others who suggest that it is a statement which is true or false. I suggest that Wittgenstein and Alfred Tursky, the famous Polish-American logician and mathematician, they say that it is a sentence which is true or false, though they differ as to the nature of the sentence. All of you know that thinkers like Russell and Moore say it is a proposition which is either true or false. And Strawson and Austin believe that statement is either true or false. So this is a most vital, or I can say crucial problem in our philosophical discussion. I am not going into this controversy. I ignored this point here, and about the truth bearer, what is the bearer of truth or falsehood, I am speaking here in a very loose sense. But one thing I can suggest that Ramsay believes that it is a proposition which is true or false. The study of language involves three aspects: syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. Syntax is concerned with the structure of language, and semantics with the relation between language and reality, and pragmatics with the relation of language and what we perform by using a language. The central problem of semantics is how to explain specifically linguistic concepts like truth of sentences or utterances, meaning, linguistic, reference, and so on. All of you know that the three traditionally known theories of truth are the correspondence, the coherence, and the pragmatic theories. Now, one of the main presuppositions of the different theories of truth is that true or false is a descriptive predicate, which I have mentioned earlier. All the advocates of correspondence, coherence, and pragmatic theories believe that true or false is a descriptive predicate. Now, my question is, what is a descriptive predicate? To say that a statement is true or false is not just to assert the statement or to assert its contradictory, but to say something more. This is what is meant by the term descriptive predicate. Let us explain this with the help of an example. Suppose I say the cat is white. For example, the cat is white. This is a simple statement. What I state here, that the cat is white and nothing else. But when I say the cat is white, quote unquote, consists of 4 words. The cat is white. Here I am saying something more. Similarly, we can state that there's two statements. The cat is on the wall and it is true that the cat is on the wall are different. Similarly, why they are different? The cat is on the wall is true. By adding the phrase is true, we say something more which is not stated by the statement the cat is on the wall. তাহলে আমরা কি বলছি এখানে? আমি একটুখানি মাঝে মাঝে একটু বাংলা বলছি, মানে শুধুমাত্র ছাত্রছাত্রীদের দিকে তাকিয়ে, যে আমি যখন বলি দ্য ক্যাট ইজ অন দ্য ওয়াল, তখন আমি একটা কি ঘটনাটা ঘটছে সেটা বললাম। আর যখন বলছি ইটস ট্রু দ্যাট দ্য ক্যাট ইজ অন দ্য ওয়াল, তখন আমি কি বলতে চাইছি, যে আমি মানে ঘটনাটা যেটা ঘটছে বলছি, সেটা স্টেটমেন্টে যেভাবে ঘটনাটাকে ঘটছে বলা হচ্ছে, ঘটনাটা ঠিক সেইভাবেই ঘটেছে। Things are as it is stated by the statement. স্টেটমেন্টে যেভাবে স্টেট করা হয়েছে জিনিসগুলো ঠিক সেইভাবেই আছে। তাহলে পরে আমরা দেখলাম যে the 3 traditional theories of truth, the advocates of these 3 theories believe that true or false is a descriptive predicate. So the word true or false is not redundant. When I say a statement is true or false, I say something more. But as I have told you that A.J. and F.P.M both challenged this presupposition. They say that the problem of truth or falsehood is not a genuine problem. To say that a statement is true is just to assert it, and to say it is false is just to assert its contradictory. This is their version. First, I say, what does Ayer's opinion about this view? Ayer suggests that in all sentences of the form P is true, the phrase is true is logically superfluous. His own example is, he says that when one says Queen Annie is dead is true, all that one is saying is that Queen Annie is dead and nothing more. Again, when one says that the proposition Oxford is the capital of England is false, all one is saying is that Oxford is not the capital of England. Thus, to say that a proposition is true is just to assert it, and to say that it is false is just to assert its contradictory. In this way, Ayer says that the terms true and false connote nothing. Their function is just to assert or to deny a proposition. Eta hocche Ayer mot. I have taken this view of Ayer from his book Language, Truth and Logic, page 88. উনি তাহলে আমরা দেখছি উনিও ওই র্যামজেকেই সাপোর্ট করে বলেছেন ট্রু আর ফলস এইগুলো হচ্ছে রিডান্ডেন্ট। Now I pass on to Ramsey's view. Ramsey, the British philosopher, economist, and mathematician. Ramsay was a British philosopher, mathematician, and economist. He made major contributions to all these fields. He was a close friend of Wittgenstein, and as we know that he translated Wittgenstein's Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus into English. But one thing I am saying here that, but he died at a very young age, at the age of 26. Now, I am going to state Ramsay's position. The truth or falsehood, according to Ramsay, is nothing but a linguistic muddle. It's nothing but a linguistic muddle. তার মানে কি, আমি ছাত্রছাত্রীদের জন্য বলছি, এটা একটা ভাষার বিভ্রান্তি। এই যে ট্রু আর ফলস, এইগুলো যখন আমরা কোনো বাক্যের সঙ্গে লাগাই, সেখানে আমি নতুন কিচ্ছু বলি না। রামসে বলছেন এটা কি, এটা একটা ভাষার বিভ্রান্তি, এটা একটা ভাষার খেলা, তাছাড়া আর কিচ্ছু না। He claims that to say a statement is true is not to make a further statement, but to make that very statement. আমরা যখন বলি তখন ওই স্টেটমেন্টটাকেই বলি, তার মানে ওই স্টেটমেন্টটাকে আমরা রিপিট করি। We repeat the statement, we do not make any further statement. The term true has no independent assertive meaning. Now, Ramsay says that truth and falsity are ascribed primarily to propositions. And he says that the propositions to which the words true and false are applied, the propositions may be either explicitly given or described. Let us explain this with the help of an example. Suppose I say snow is white. Snow is white is true. When I say snow is white is true, I am saying something about the sentence snow is white. Snow is white could be put within quotation marks. Snow is white within quotation is true. Here, the Ramsay suggests that the proposition snow is white is given explicitly. I have explicitly stated the sentence or statement, and I say that it is true. Again, he suggests that the propositions to which the adjective true or false is applied may be described but not given explicitly. How to explain this? If it is suggested that what he says is true, here the is true is applied to what he says. We are not specifically given all the statement he has uttered. What he says is true. This Ramsay called the blind use of truth. So, according to Ramsay, the propositions to which truth and falsity are ascribed may be either explicitly given or described. When the proposition is explicitly given, he calls the use of truth as non-blind use. And where the proposition is described, he suggests this use as blind use of truth. Let us first consider his view about the non-blind use of truth. That is where the proposition is explicitly given. In such case, he says that it is evident that it is true that Caesar was murdered means no more than that Caesar was murdered, and it is false that Caesar was murdered means that Caesar was not murdered. There is therefore no difference between the propositions. Caesar was murdered and Caesar was murdered is true, and Caesar was murdered, and Caesar was murdered is false, and Caesar was not murdered. So the phrase, he suggests that the phrase, it is true that and it is false that, on Ramsay's view, that he says that they are sometimes used for stylistic reason. আমরা একবার দেখলাম উনি বলেছেন ভাষার বিভ্রান্তি, আর বলছেন আমাদের স্টাইলিস্টিক রিজনের জন্য আমরা এরকম কখনো ট্রু কখনো ফলস এগুলো বলি। আসলে যখন আমরা কোনো একটা বাক্যকে, বাক্য বলো, আমি যে জন্য বললাম, আমি লুজলি ধরেছি, বাক্য বলো, প্রপোজিশন বলো, স্টেটমেন্ট বলো, তাদেরকে যখন আমি একটা কথা বলে নিচ্ছি, আমি ছাত্রছাত্রীদের উদ্দেশ্যেই বলছি, কারণ আমি জানি এই মতগুলো মানে এখানে যারা বিদগ্ধ পার্টিসিপেন্টস আছেন তারা সবাই এগুলো মানে এই মতের বিরুদ্ধে আপত্তিও তাদের কিছু রয়েছে, তারা জানেন। আমি ছাত্রছাত্রীদের উদ্দেশ্যেই বলছি, সেই জন্য আমি বললাম যে দেখো, যখন আমরা মানে ওনার মতে প্রপোজিশনটা যদি ওই রকম সরাসরি আমার কাছে দেওয়া হয়, তারপরে যদি আমি ট্রু বা ফলস এগুলো তাতে লাগিয়ে আমি নতুন কিচ্ছু বলি না, র্যামসের মত কিচ্ছু বলি না, আমি ওই প্রপোজিশনটাকেই হয় অ্যাসার্ট করি, না হলে ওটাকে ডিনাই করি। আচ্ছা, দিস ইজ Ramsay's view about the non-blind use of true or false. এবারে আমি দেখাচ্ছি যে blind use of true or false. Ramsay himself believes that it is very difficult to eliminate the word true from blind use of true or false because the propositions are not given explicitly. Non-blind user বেলায় যেরকম প্রপোজিশন গুলো আমার কাছে একদম দেওয়া থাকে, আমি ওইগুলো দিয়েই ইয়েকে ট্রু ফলস ওয়ার্ড গুলোকে এলিমিনেট করতে পারি। কিন্তু in case of non-blind use, where the propositions are not given explicitly but described, in this case it is very difficult to eliminate the word true or false. But I have seen that in his book The Foundations of Mathematics and Other Logical Essays, Ramsay tries to eliminate the word true in a very simple way. He eliminates the word true from even the non-blind use of true or false. উনি করেছেন, কিভাবে করেছেন আমি দেখছি। When it is suggested that he is always right, this is an example of blind use of true, and we know this example is provided by Ramsay himself. And Ramsay himself, in his book Foundations of Mathematics and Other Logical Essays, he considers this sentence as this proposition as the blind use of true, and he tries to eliminate the word true from this sentence. Here the students may ask me, you are speaking about the elimination of the word true, but where is the word true in the sentence he is always right? Let us speak in this way, that when I say he is always right, what I mean is that, or rather what we mean is that, the statements he asserts are true. He is always right means the statements he asserts are always true. So now our question is how to eliminate the word is true from this sentence. Ramsay, in his own way, tries to eliminate the word true. He says he translates the word he is always right into a quantificational sentence that for all p, if he asserts p, then p is true. He is always right Ramsay translates this sentence into for all P, if he asserts P, then P is true. And then he argues that since the propositional function P is true is simply the same as P, so he says the proposition all for all P, if he asserts P, then P is true, is equivalent to for all P, if he asserts P, then P. So here what I find is that the propositional function P is true is equivalent to P. This example is given by Ramsay himself, and in this way he tries to solve the problem. tries to show his redundant that true and false are redundant. Again, I can also suggest another example. The example is every statement the Pope makes is true. Every statement the Pope makes is true. Here, I am not stating all the statements that are made by Pope. That is, the statements made by Pope are not given explicitly. So the question arises, how to eliminate the word true from this statement? Here I can give Ramsay-like analysis as by saying that the statement, every statement the Pope makes is true, is equivalent to things are as the Pope says they are. Things are as the Pope says they are. এইভাবে আমরা ট্রুটাকে এলিমিনেট করতে পারি। বলা হচ্ছিল যে পোপ যা বলেন তাই সত্য। তার অর্থ হচ্ছে পোপ জিনিসগুলোকে যেভাবে বলেছে জিনিসগুলো সেভাবেই আছে। এভাবে things are as the Pope says they are, as the Pope states they are, যা খুশি বলো না কেন। তাহলে পরে এখানে আমরা this ট্রুটাকে অনায়াসে এলিমিনেট করে দিলাম। তাহলে in this way I have give the view of Ramsay redundancy theory. এইভাবে আমরা দেখলাম Ramsay বলেছেন the word true or false is redundant, এবং ওনার মতে কি to say that a statement is true is the same as to make the very statement, and to say that a statement is false is to make it contradictory. স্টেটমেন্টটাকে ডিনাই করা বা স্টেটমেন্টটাকে আবার করে অ্যাসার্ট করা, এছাড়া বাড়তি কিচ্ছু না। তাহলে আমরা বলতে পারি there is no difference therefore between the statements P is true and P, neither is there any difference between P is false and not P. ঠিক আছে, this is Ramsay's view about the blind and non-blind use of truth. Am I clear to all? Again, I will proceed. Here, one suggestion crop up in my mind is that the main argument in favor of redundancy theory is that truth conditions of P is true are the same as those of P. So, what I intended to say here that Ramsay says P is true is equal to P. Why? Because the truth conditions of P is true are the same as those of P. So, it seems that the advocates of redundancy theory presuppose that these statements have the same meaning. They have the same meaning. As their truth conditions are same, so they have the same meaning. So, P is true is materially equivalent with P. But my question here is that when we say P is true, if and only P, do they actually have the same meaning? In Ramsay's sense, they have the same meaning because their truth conditions are same. But am going against this view by saying that do they have, if the truth conditions of two statements are same, can we say that they mean the same thing? I think we cannot. As we proceed, I will show that. This point has been made clear by J.L. Mackey in the following way. Mackey suggests that the truth conditions of S is true is the same as true. Truth conditions of S is true is the same as true, but they are not synonymous. That is, they do not mean the same thing. Mackey also believes it's true that the truth conditions of S is true and S, their truth conditions are same, but they do not mean the same thing. They are not synonymous. He says, when we say P is true, what we mean is that there is at least one X. S is the statement that X and X. Here, the word true is eliminated, no doubt, but truth is not eliminated. It is displayed. Someone may say that this is also the redundancy theory. No, here truth is not eliminated. Truth is not eliminated, but the truth is displayed. So here I can say that here the eliminability is not redundancy. In support of this view, it can be said that when we define a concept, this is the general view, when we define a concept, what is essential is that the definiendum must not be present in the definiens. আমরা যখন কোনো কিছুর ডেফিনেশন দিই, যাকে ডিফাইন করতে চাইছি, যা দিয়ে ওই যাকে ডিফাইন করতে চাইছি, যা দিয়ে ডিফাইন করতে চাইছি সেখানে সে আসে। বুঝতে সেই জন্য আমরা এখানে বলতে পারি Mackey attempts to give a definition of the word true, so the word true does not occur in the definiens, but this does not make it redundant. এটা তো আমরা ম্যাকির একটা ভিউ দেখলাম। We can mention here the view of J.L. Austin. Austin also argues that I have taken this Austin's view from his paper on truth. It is edited in the book Truth, edited by, I think, Beecher. Another thing, the name of the Mackey's book, from where I have taken Mackey's view, the book is Truth, Probability and Paradox. Austin also argues that S is not the same as the statement, it is true that is. It is true that their truth conditions are the same, yet they do not mean the same thing. Austin suggests that their truth conditions are same, but they do not mean the same thing. Why? For the statement S refers to something to which the statement it is true that S cannot refer. মানে দুটো স্টেটমেন্ট আলাদা। Why? Their reference is different. State S যাকে রেফার করে, S is true তাকে রেফার করে না। কিভাবে উনি বলছেন? When I say S is S, what I mean is that the statement S refers to a portion of the world and possibly a few other things, and not the statement S, that is exclusive of the statement S. And the statement S is true, it refers to S, the statement S, and possibly a few other things of the world, and exclusive of the statement S is true. এখানে আমি কি বলছি, একটু বাংলায় ছেলেপুলেদের জন্য বলছি। যখন আমি এস বলি, এস রেফার করে, এস যা স্টেট করছে সেটাকে রেফার করে। জগতের যে অংশটা সে স্টেট করছে রেফার করে, কিন্তু এখানে এস নিজেকে রেফার করে না। কিন্তু যখন এস ইজ ট্রু বলছি তখন আমরা দেখছি যে এস ইজ ট্রু বলছি, সেখানেও আবার এস যা রেফার করছে সেটা বলছে, আবার স্টেটমেন্ট এস কে রেফার করা হচ্ছে, কিন্তু এই যে স্টেটমেন্টটা এস ইজ ট্রু এ নিজেকে রেফার করছে না, তাহলে রেফারেন্সেস আর ডিফারেন্ট বলে আমরা বলতে পারি, দে ডু নট মিন দ্য সেম থিং। আচ্ছা, আমার মনে হচ্ছে ইফ আই ক্যান এক্সপ্লেইন দিস উইথ দ্য হেল্প অফ অ্যান এক্সাম্পল, it would be much easier for the students to understand. Suppose when I say the cat, for example, the cat is on the wall. Here, what the statement, the cat is on the wall or the cat is on the mat, whatever it may be. When I say the cat is on the mat, what I suggest is that what is the reference of the statement the cat is on the mat? The cat, the mat, their relation, and few other things of the world, but not the statement the cat is on the mat. Exclusive of the statement the cat is on the mat. But when I say it is true that the cat is on the mat, here what I refer is that the statement the cat is on the mat, the cat, the mat, their relation, possibly a few other things, but not the statement it is true that the cat is on the mat. So we can easily say that the reference of the statement it is true that the cat is on the mat and the statement the cat is on the mat are different. Therefore, the subject matter of the statement it is true that the cat is on the mat is different from the subject matter of the statement the cat is on the mat is true. So I can say here that the phrase true is not logically superfluous. By adding the phrase is true to a statement, we assert something about the statement which the statement itself and cannot assert. When I say or I say the statement states something. But when I say that the statement is true, it's assert something more than that. It's true that the statement, or it's true that the cat is on the wall. Here I refer to something which is not referred by the statement the cat is on the wall. Again, another thing which I want to say here is that this is my view. If the word true is superfluous, then why does a man on some occasions choose to say that a statement is true instead of simply making it? তাহলে মানুষটা যদি সত্যি সত্যি ট্রু বলার অর্থ যদি ওই পুনরাবৃত্তি করা স্টেটমেন্টটা বা ফলস বলার অর্থ সেটাকে ডিনাই করা এই যদি হয়, তাহলে আমরা কেন এই শব্দটা ব্যবহার করছি, তাই নয় কি? মানে কেন আমি instead of making the statement we say simply that it is true, এটা কেন বলি? Why does a man say, for example, it is true that metro railway is the first moving transport system? It is true that metro railway is the first moving transport system rather than metro railway is a first moving transport system. আমরা কেন আমরা তো একটু বলি it is true that metro railway is a first moving transport system. এর যদি কোনো কাজই না থাকতো, ফাংশনই না থাকতো, তাহলে বলার কি দরকার? তাহলে তো আমরা শুধু মেট্রো রেলওয়ে ইজ এ ফার্স্ট মুভিং ট্রান্সপোর্ট সিস্টেম এটাই তো আমরা বলতে পারতাম, তাই নয় কি? এখানে আমার মনে হচ্ছে যে they do not, মানে we say it's true that metro railway is a first moving transport system because the statement, it's true that metro railway is the first moving transport system, does not have the same function as the statement metro railway is a first moving transport system. আমার মনে হচ্ছে কেন আমরা ট্রুটা লাগাই, কারণ এদের ফাংশন, কাজ আলাদা। এখন কেউ আমাকে প্রশ্ন করতে পারে, আলাদা বলছি তার মানে কি আলাদা, সেখানে আমি বলছি the statement metro railway is a first moving transport system states that a certain object has a certain property. মেট্রো রেলওয়েটা কিরকম? মেট্রো রেলওয়ে হচ্ছে ফার্স্ট মুভিং ট্রান্সপোর্ট সিস্টেম। এই মেট্রো রেলওয়ে অবজেক্টটা কিরকম, তাতে এই প্রপার্টি দেওয়া আছে, জাস্ট এইটুকু বলছি। কিন্তু যখন আমি বলি it is true that metro railway is a first moving transport system, what the statement states is that the situation it describes is as it describes it. The situation it describes is as it describes it. তার মানে কি? তার অর্থ হচ্ছে it is true that metro railway is a first moving transport system. যখন বলছি it is true that, তার মানে কি সিচুয়েশনটাকে যেভাবে স্টেটমেন্টটা বর্ণনা করছে, সিচুয়েশনটা ঠিক সেই রকমই। তাহলে পরিষ্কার দেখা গেল দুটোর ফাংশন এক নয়। একটা ফাংশন হচ্ছে একটা অবজেক্টে একটা প্রপার্টি আছে বলা, আর আরেকটার ফাংশন কি? আরেকটার ফাংশন হচ্ছে অবজেক্টটাকে প্রপার্টি আছে যেভাবে স্টেটমেন্টটা বলছে জগতে সেইভাবেই অবজেক্টটাই সেই প্রপার্টিটা আছে। সেই কারণেই we can make a difference between two statements, এবং সেই কারণেই sometimes we say it's true that metro railway is a first moving transport system rather than metro railway is a first moving transport system. So here we can say that the addition of the word true has an ontological import. এই যে আমি বললাম না, যেমন ভাবে বলেছে জগতে সেরকম ভাবে হচ্ছে, সেই কারণে আমরা এখানে বলতে পারি এই ট্রুটা এ করে আমি এখানে দেখাচ্ছি যে ট্রু এর একটা অন্টোলজিক্যাল ইম্পোর্ট আছে। আর একটা কথা, আমি জানি না সবাই এটা মানবেন কিনা, আমার আর একটা ডিফারেন্সও মনে হয়েছে between the sentence it's true that metro railway is a first moving transport system, এটা আমি এক্সাম্পলটা দিয়ে বলছি আর কি, আর metro railway is a first moving transport system, এই দুটোর মধ্যে পার্থক্য রয়েছে কেন? আমার মনে হচ্ছে যে did not belong to the same language, তারা একই ভাষায় বিলং করে না। কেন? It is true that metro railway is a first moving transport system is a sentence of the meta language. It's true that metro railway is a first moving transport system, সেটা হচ্ছে একটা মেটা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের সেন্টেন্স। আর metro railway is a first moving transport system, এইটা হচ্ছে একটা অবজেক্ট ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের সিস্টেম। আমরা এখানে বলতে পারি যেহেতু দু ধরনের ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ বিলং করছে, সেই কারণে তাদের মধ্যে একটা নিশ্চয়ই পার্থক্য আছে। ট্রু বলা মানেই স্টেটমেন্টটাকে আবার করে অ্যাসার্ট করছি না। I am saying this only for the students that I know that they also they are very much acquainted with the terms meta language system and object language system. But I say that there is a difference between two languages, meta language and object language. Object language is the language talked about. যে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ সম্বন্ধে আমরা কথা বলি সেটা হচ্ছে অবজেক্ট ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, and meta language is the language in which we talk about the object language, এবং ওই অবজেক্ট ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজকে আমরা যে ভাষায় কথা বলি সেটা হচ্ছে মেটা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ। তাহলে পরে, এবং আমি বললাম যে দুটো যে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ এখানে, metro railway is a first moving transport system is a sentence of object language, or it is true that metro railway is a fast moving transport system, এটা হচ্ছে কি, এটা হচ্ছে সেন্টেন্স অফ মেটা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ। আরো আমি একটা উদাহরণ দিলে হয়তো আমার মনে হচ্ছে ছেলেদের পক্ষে সুবিধা হবে। যেমন ধরো আমি যদি বলি স্নো ইজ হোয়াইট, বরফটা সাদা, এটা যে আমি বললাম স্নো ইজ হোয়াইট, দিস ইজ এ সেন্টেন্স অফ অবজেক্ট ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ। অবজেক্ট ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ বলছে বরফ কিরকম, সাদা। কিন্তু যদি আমি বলি কোট আনকোট স্নো ইজ হোয়াইট ইজ ট্রু, এখানে আমি কার সম্বন্ধে কথা বলছি, ওই স্টেটমেন্টটা সম্বন্ধে। ইটস ট্রু দ্যাট স্নো ইজ হোয়াইট, সেই কারণে দিস ইজ এ সেন্টেন্স অফ দি মেটা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, কারণ ওই যে অবজেক্ট ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ স্নো ইজ হোয়াইট সেটার সম্বন্ধে আমি কথা বলছি। তাই জন্য আমার এখানে একটা মনে হচ্ছে, সো to determine the truth conditions of the first, that is, it's true that metro railway is a fast moving transport system, we are to consider the meta language as an object language. And jokhon we say that in the second case, that is, metro railway is a fast moving transport system, we are to consider the object language. Here also I can show that there is a difference between saying that stating a statement and saying that it is true. There are other cases where I think that the addition of the phrase is true is not superfluous addition. For example, here I have taken only two sentences. First, the valid conclusions which I get from the premises are also true. The valid conclusions which I get from the true premises are also true. And secondly, this is a very common sentence, to say the present Prime Minister of India is a man is to speak the truth. Can we say that in these cases, by adding the phrase is true, we say simply what is said by the original statement? We cannot. So, here also I suggest that the phrase is true. This is not correct to say that the phrase is true is superfluous. By adding the phrase is true, we say something which cannot be said by such addition. এখান থেকে ট্রুটাকে এলিমিনেট করা অসুবিধা। I can give you another example. A scientist makes some hypothesis in order to explain a phenomenon. একটা phenomenon-কে explain করার জন্য scientist সবসময় hypothesis frame করে। If after some time he finds that with the help of those hypotheses he can explain the phenomenon correctly, then he says what I suppose is true, or the hypothesis I put forward are true. Here also he is not repeating the hypothesis but saying something more. উনি কিন্তু যখন বলছেন what I suppose is true or the hypothesis I put forward or I have suggested are true, সেখানে কিন্তু উনি ওনার হাইপোথেসিস গুলোকে আর রিপিট করছেন না। সুতরাং আমরা এখানেও বলতে পারি that the word true is not superfluous. এরকম আমরা মানে ভুরি এক্সাম্পল দেখাতে পারি in order to show that the word true or false is not superfluous. আমি এগেইন মানে আমি এই টেম্পটেশনটাই রেজিস্ট করতে পারছি না to take a very simple example from our common day life. Suppose someone may ask his friends whether all the trees of his garden are mango trees, and the friend answers in positive. Then, in order to verify his friend's statement, the person asks me for, I have seen the garden and he relies on me, whether the statement made by his friend is true or not. Here, I say it's true that all the trees in his garden are mango trees. I can say that here, the word true is not superfluous. I am not stating simply what his friend told. I am saying something more. তার তো একটা বিশ্বাসও জন্মানো যে সত্যি কথা বলেছে। তাহলে পরে আমরা এখানে বলতে পারি যে when the word true or false, এগুলো they are not at all logically superfluous. In saying that a statement is true, we do not simply assert it, neither in saying that it is false, we do merely assert its contradictory, but we say something more. আমার মনে হচ্ছে হয়তো ছেলেমেয়েরা খানিকটা বুঝতে পেরেছে যে ওয়ার্ড ট্রুটা কেন সুপারফ্লুয়াস নয়। This is about Ramsey's non-blind use of truth. Karan here I have the propositions are explicitly given. The sentences or statements, whatever you say, they are explicitly given. But Ramsey has also suggested another case where the proposition is not explicitly given, but it is described, which is known as the blind use of truth. So now I shall deal with the blind use of truth. What I have seen Ramsey formulates, he is always right as for all P, if he asserts P, then P is true. He is P means for all P, if he asserts P, then P is true, which according to Ramsey means the same as for all P, if he asserts P, then P. So I can say here that the propositional function P is true is materially equivalent with P. P is true is materially equivalent with P. But can we say that P is materially equivalent with P? That is, P is true if and only if P. This is Ramsey's suggestion. Now, I want to say something about this blind use of truth. For now, if we replace the variable P by a sentence, for example, a very simple sentence, the girl is fond of music, then what I get is the girl is fond of music is true if and only if the girl is fond of music. But I can say that, or all of you know that this is counter-syntactical. Why? Because for the first part of the material equivalence is nonsensical. Why? In order to say something about a sentence, we put the name of, here we haven't put the name of it, we say the girl is fond of music is true if and only if the proposition function P is true. Girl is fond of music is true if and only if the girl is fond of music. So this is counter-syntactical, where the first portion of the material equivalence is nonsense. When we say something about the statement, we have to put the name of the sentence. So what is suggested here that we have to put here the name of the sentence. How we get the name of the sentence? Usually we frame the name of the sentence by putting a quotation mark, by using quotation marks. So I say that, quote, the girl is fond of music, unquote, is true if and only if, quote, the girl is fond of music, unquote. Here also, this sentence also is not correct. Why? Because here the first portion of the material equivalence is all right, quite all right, because I am saying something about the sentence, so the name of the sentence is put here. But the second portion of the material equivalence is the name of the sentence, as we know that material equivalence always obtains between two sentences and not between a sentence and the name of the sentence. So, if we try to replace the variable p by the name of a sentence, then we are getting the equivalence which we get is counter-syntactical. Now one may say that, let us suppose what happens if we replace the variable p by the name of a proposition. What happens? Usually the name of proposition is formed by prefixing a that clause. Suppose I say it is raining. The name of the proposition would be framed in this way: that the rain is that it is raining. Sorry, that it is raining. Here also what we get is that it is raining is true if and only if that it is raining. This is also counter-syntactical, for here the sign of material equivalence, instead of occurring between two sentences, occurs between a sentence on the one hand and the name of sentence, because that it is true, that it is raining is true, this is a sentence, and that it is raining, this is the name of the proposition. So what I say here is that this is counter-syntactical. Why? Because the sign of material equivalence, instead of occurring between two sentences, occurs between the sentence on the one hand and the name of the proposition on the other. Here I have noted one thing in favor of Ramsey. Ramsey is quite right when he tries to eliminate the word true from the blind use by taking a quantificational statement. So I can say here that so far as the quantification is concerned, what Ramsey says is correct. Why? The quantification is prefixing and objectual. It is prefixing for the open sentence. If he asserts P, then P is true, is prefixed by the phrase for all P. এই জন্য এটাকে প্রেফিক্স কি বলা হলো, if he asserts P then P is true, এটাকে উনি প্রেফিক্স করেছেন কি দিয়ে, for all P দিয়ে, সেই জন্য এই কোয়ান্টিফিকেশনটা হচ্ছে প্রেফিক্সিং। আর এটা অবজেক্চুয়াল কেন? for it is objectual. Why? Because the proper substituents of the variable P, as we have seen, are names of the object of a kind, that is, sentences or propositions. And then Ramsey says that P is true if and only P. But I have shown you in my aforesaid discussion that we cannot maintain this view. This objection is framed by me. I do not know whether one will accept this or not. Another example was, this is one way of giving an objection to Ramsey's blind use of truth. Another example was, everything the Pope says is true. Here the Ramsey-like analysis was, things are as the Pope says they are. Here also I tried to put my objection in this way by saying that the things are as the Pope says they are. Here two things are involved. One, things are in the world. Sorry. Two, things as they are stated to be by Pope, who makes the sentence. Things as they are stated to be by Pope, who makes the sentence. I can suggest here that here also the notion of truth is involved. Why? Here truth consists in some relation between the two. The word true is here used in the sense of comparison. So, if the element of comparison is present in Ramsey's theory, then what can prevent us in treating it as a version of correspondence? আমি ছেলে মেয়েদের উদ্দেশ্যে একটুখানি বলছি এটা, যখন আমি বলছি যে পোপ যা বলছেন তাই সত্য, এখানে সত্যটাকে র্যামসের মতন করে এলিমিনেট করা হলো কিভাবে? বললো জিনিসগুলো মানে পোপ যেভাবে বলেছেন জিনিসগুলো জগতে আছে, ঠিক জিনিসগুলো সেইভাবেই আছে। এবং আমার মনে হয়েছে এখানে আমরা দুটো জিনিস পাচ্ছি, একটা হচ্ছে থিংস আর ইন দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড, জগতে বিষয় আছে, আর একটা হচ্ছে পোপ যেভাবে বলেছেন জিনিসগুলো সেইভাবেই আছে। এখানে তো সেই একই কথা, একই করেসপন্ডেন্সের কথা, সেন্টেন্সে যেভাবে ঘটনাটাকে বর্ণনা করা হয়েছে ঘটনাটা ঠিক সেইভাবেই ঘটে আছে, তাই নয় কি? সেই জন্য বলা হচ্ছে থিংস as they are stated to be by stated to be by Pope who makes the statement. Pope এই স্টেটমেন্টটা করেছিল যে যেভাবে সেন্টেন্স গুলো উনি বলছেন, সেন্টেন্স পোপ যা বলছেন জগতে বিষয়গুলো ঠিক সেভাবেই আছে। তো এটা মানে দিস ইজ অলসো my own objection যে this is also another way of stating correspondence and nothing else. আমি জানি না whether someone will accept this view or not. অনেকেই এটা অস্বীকার করতে পারে, কিন্তু আমার এইভাবে মনে হয়েছে যে ট্রু আর ফলস এই প্রেডিকেট গুলোকে ওইভাবে উড়িয়ে দেওয়া যায় না, কারণ সুপারফ্লুয়াস, তাদেরকে এলিমিনেট করতে পারি, তারা কোনো কাজ করে না। যখন ট্রু বলি তার মানে স্টেটমেন্টটাকে অ্যাসার্ট করি, যখন ফলস বলি তখন সেটাকে ডিনাই করি। আমার মনে হচ্ছে এই বলাটা মানে আমার নিজস্ব পছন্দ হচ্ছে না, সেই কারণে আমি কনক্লুড করছি যে স্টেটমেন্ট ইজ ট্রু is not to affirm it, but to say that it has some claim about how things are. এই যে আমি একটু আগে বললাম, ট্রু বলা মানেই ওই স্টেটমেন্টটাকে রিঅ্যাফার্ম করা, তা পুনরুক্তি করা, তা নয়। আমি কি বলছি, এর একটা ক্লেম রয়েছে জগৎ সম্পর্কে। ক্লেম মানে হ্যাঁ সত্যি, মানে হচ্ছে কি যেভাবে বাক্যে কথাটা বলা হয়েছে সেই জিনিসটা সেরকম ভাবেই আছে। And to say that is to say something more. নিশ্চয়ই বাড়তি বলা। So the addition of the word true is not a superfluous addition. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we will be running a live Q&A session. If anybody have any questions, feel free to ask.
দর্শকদের উদ্দেশ্যে বলা হচ্ছে যে আপনাদের যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে আপনারা ইউটিউব কমেন্ট বক্সে লিখে জানান, আমরা ম্যাডাম উত্তর দেবেন সেই কোশ্চেনগুলি। প্লিজ আপনারা ইউটিউবে কমেন্ট বক্সে কোশ্চেন লিখতে পারেন।
বোঝা গেছে তো? আমি যেটা বলতে চেষ্টা করেছি যে র্যামসে যে থিওরিটা এনেছে যে ট্রু ফলস এগুলো ডেসক্রিপটিভ প্রেডিকেট নয়, এগুলো শুধুই ওই ট্রু বলি মানে সেন্টেন্সটাকে আবার করে রিপিট করি, আর ফলস বলি মানে সেটাকে নেগেট করি। মানে আমি সেখানে বলতে চেয়েছি আমার নিজের দিক থেকে আমার মনে হয়েছে যে এই কথাটা ঠিক নয়, এগুলোকে আমরা অনায়াসেই ডেসক্রিপটিভ প্রেডিকেট বলে ইউজ করতে পারি। এবং যখন আমরা বলি কোনো একটা স্টেটমেন্টকে ট্রু বা ফলস, স্টেটমেন্ট বলো, প্রপোজিশন বলো, সেন্টেন্স বলো, যা খুশি বলো, তখন আমরা কিন্তু নতুন কিছু বলি। এবং সেই নতুন কিছুটা আমার মতে যে এইরকম যে একটা সেন্টেন্সে যা বলা আছে তারপরে যখন আবার সেটাকে আমরা ট্রু বলি, তার মানে সেন্টেন্স যে ঘটনাটাকে বর্ণনা করেছে ঘটনাটা ঠিক সেভাবেই ঘটেছে। অথবা যখন আমি ফলস বলি, সেন্টেন্স ঘটনাটাকে যেভাবে বর্ণনা করেছে ঘটনাটা ঠিক সেভাবে নেই। এই হচ্ছে আমার মানে ইন এ ভেরি নাটশেল এটাই হচ্ছে আমার বক্তব্য। সেই জন্যই আমি তার সপক্ষে কিছু এভিডেন্স এনেছি। বোঝা গেছে তো সবার? আমি শুধু এইটুকুই প্রশ্ন করছি, ছাত্রছাত্রীদের কাছে কি এটা বোধগম্য হয়েছে? আমি জানি বাংলায় বললে হয়তো তোমাদের সুবিধা হতো, কিন্তু আমাদের তো একটা প্রোটোকল আছে, সেই প্রোটোকল অনুযায়ী আমরা এখানে বলেছি যে ইংরেজিতে বলেছি। আচ্ছা, রাজা শর্মাদের আমার মনে হচ্ছে হয়তো কোনো প্রশ্ন নেই।
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, এখনো কোনো আমরা প্রশ্ন পাচ্ছি না।
কারণ আমার টাইম কনস্ট্রেইন বলে তো একটা ব্যাপার আছে, আমাদের তো পরবর্তী আরেকজন বলবেন, সেইটা একটু ভেবে দেখো। পরে যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন তোমাদের কাছে আসে তোমরা আমাকে জানিও, আমি তখন তার উত্তর দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করব। ঠিক আছে?
ওকে ম্যাম, ওকে ম্যাম।
ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ।
হ্যাঁ, রাজা শর্মাদে, আমার মনে হয় পরের সেশনে চলে যাই ভালো।
আচ্ছা মহারাজ। Today I have the privilege and honor to welcome Dr. Deventra Tiwari in this webinar. Let me introduce him. Dr. Tiwari has been awarded the doctoral fellowship PhD from Banaras Hindu University, Uttar Pradesh, postdoctoral fellowship of Indian Council of Philosophical Research, New Delhi, researchers and research fellow of International Association for East-West Studies, California, United States, a research member of GO, India project of University of Gothenburg, Sweden. He was one of the coordinators in Asia of Council for Research in Values and Philosophy, CRV. Tiwari to address. Maharaj, is Professor Tiwari online? Am I audible?
প্রফেসর তিওয়ারি এখনো আসেননি, হয়তো কোনো নেটওয়ার্কের প্রবলেম হচ্ছে ওনার। হ্যাঁ, কি হলো? এটা চলছে, দেখো এটা খোলা খোলা, আমি যাচ্ছি। মহারাজ, আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে ঠিক আছে ঠিক আছে, হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে।
সমস্ত অডিয়েন্সের কাছ থেকে আমরা ক্ষমা চেয়ে নিচ্ছি। আমাদের এই পরবর্তী স্পিকার অধ্যাপক DN তিওয়ারি, ওনার নেটওয়ার্কের প্রচণ্ড প্রবলেমের জন্যে উনি আসতে পারছেন না। আমি ওনার সাথে বারবার ওনার সাথে যোগাযোগ করেছি। আশা করছি উনি কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে আমাদের মধ্যে এসে জয়েন করবেন। আবারও সকলকে বলছি, we are sorry to say that our eminent speaker, Professor DN Tiwari, is not connecting you to your network. So please wait. He also join shortly in our August audience.
আমরা প্রফেসর তিওয়ারির সঙ্গে কানেক্ট করবার চেষ্টা করছি যথাসাধ্য। উনি কিছু নেটওয়ার্ক প্রবলেম ফেস করছেন। আশা করছি কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যেই আমরা উনি স্ট্রিম লাইভে আসতে সক্ষম হবেন। দর্শকদের একটু অনুরোধ করছি, আপনারা একটু ধৈর্য ধরুন।
হ্যালো, আচ্ছা, আমাদের প্রফেসর তিওয়ারি তিনি কোনো কারণে এখনো ঢুকতে পাচ্ছেন না। সেই অবকাশে আমরা রঞ্জনাদির সঙ্গে একটু কথা বলি। রঞ্জনাদি, আপনি একটু কথা বলুন, আমিও একটু বলবো যতক্ষণ না উনি আসছেন। কেননা দর্শকরা তো স্বাভাবিকভাবে, শ্রোতারা তারা তো অপেক্ষা করছেন, অনেকক্ষণই হয়ে গেল। আমিও চেষ্টা করছিলাম এটা মানে আসার আর কি, কিন্তু আমি ব্যাক স্টেজেই রয়েছি, কোনো কারণে আমিও সামনে আসতে পারছিলাম না। তো রঞ্জনাদি, আপনি একটু আনমিউট করে নিন একটু। রঞ্জনাদি, আপনারটা মিউট করা আছে, আপনি যদি একটু আনমিউট করে নেন তাহলে আপনার কথা শুনতে পারবো। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
এবার শুনতে পাচ্ছ?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ শুনতে পাচ্ছি দিদি।
আমার মনে হলো যে একদম ফাঁকা তো, বিশেষ করে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের জন্য একটু ছোট্ট করে একটু বাংলায় বলি, তাহলে ওদের একটু সুবিধা হবে।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ বলুন বলুন, প্লিজ প্লিজ দিদি।
আমার আজকের টপিকটা ছিল হচ্ছে সত্য মিথ্যা এই বিশেষণ দুটো অনাবশ্যক কিনা। আমি বলেছিলাম ইজ ট্রু অর ফলস, রিডান্ডান্ট, অনাবশ্যক কিনা, কেমন? এবং এই অনাবশ্যক কিনা এটা দেখাবার জন্য আমি যে মানে ফিলসফারের নাম করেছি, দুজনের নাম করেছি। একজন হচ্ছে লজিক্যাল পজিটিভিস্ট এয়ার, আর আরেকজন হচ্ছে র্যামসে ম্যাথমেটিশিয়ান, লজিশিয়ান এবং ইকোনমিস্ট ছিল। যাই হোক, এবং এরা দুজন দেখিয়েছেন যে সত্য আর মিথ্যা এই বিশেষণ দুটো হচ্ছে কি, বিশেষণ দুটো মানে আবশ্যক নয়। তাদের মতটা কি? তাদের মত হচ্ছে একটা বাক্যে যদি আমরা সত্য বা মিথ্যা এটা লাগাই, সত্য লাগালে কি হবে, ওই বাক্যটাকেই আবার পুনরায় বলা, আর মিথ্যা যখন লাগাবো তার অর্থ হচ্ছে ওই বাক্যটাকে অস্বীকার করা। এটাই হচ্ছে ওদের মতে, দিস ইজ দ্য ফাংশন অফ দ্য ওয়ার্ড ট্রু অর ফলস। এটাই হচ্ছে সত্য বা মিথ্যা এই বিশেষণ দুটির কাজ, এইটাই ওরা বলছে। সেখানে আমি একটা কথা জাস্ট তোমাদের একটা কন্ট্রোভার্সি জাস্ট এনেছিলাম যে কে সত্য বা মিথ্যা হবে, প্রপোজিশন না বাক্য না বচন, কে হবে? সেখানে আমরা দেখেছি, সেখানেও দার্শনিকদের মধ্যে মতভেদ আছে। আজকে আমি সেই মতভেদের মধ্যে যাইনি, আমি এটাকে একটু হালকা ভাবেই নিয়েছি। তবে আমি তোমাদের একটা কথা বলেছি, আমি ছাত্রছাত্রীদের উদ্দেশ্যেই বলছি, কিন্তু তোমাদের একটা কথা বলেছি যে র্যামসে একটা প্রপোজিশনকে বোধহয় বাংলায় বচনই বলে, বচন বা উক্তি বলতে পারো। হ্যালো হ্যালো, হয়ে গেছে? আচ্ছা,
Please, Professor Tiwari, please unmute your.
Welcome, Professor
Please
Tiwari.
on your audio.
Please unmute. Please unmute.
Please unmute. Please unmute. Please unmute. Extreme left mic. Please unmute. Please unmute. Please unmute, Professor Tiwari. Hello, Professor Tiwari. Please unmute.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you are audible now.
Yes.
You are audible now.
Yes.
Yes. Raja, please carry on.
Raja,
Okay.
please.
Oh, Professor Tiwari, please unmute. Please unmute. Again, you have muted your voice. Again, you have muted your audio. Please unmute your audio, please.
Yes, it
yes.
is.
Now don't touch, please.
Namaste
Okay.
to all,
Okay. Namaste.
Okay. Okay.
Now,
Raja, please
Raja,
come 2 or 3 words regarding the introduction of Professor Tiwari.
Okay.
Raja.
Today I'm starting. Today I have the privilege and honor to welcome Dr. Deventra Tiwari, a professor of philosophy and religion, Benares Hindu University, Varanasi. He did his graduation in 1975, post-graduation in 1977, and PhD from the Benares Hindu University, and started his career as a lecturer from there. He served LN Mithilia University, Darbhanga, Bihar, as a reader and as professor of philosophy. He was a general fellow of Indian Council of Philosophical Research, New Delhi. He chaired the Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University from 2010 to 2013. He is widely known as an outstanding scholar, having deep study of the original texts of Indian philosophical systems, in general and particular of language, Indian and Western in particular. Language, Being and Cognition, a contemporary perspective, is authored by him that culminates in cognition, holism, which draws a boundary of cognition in philosophical reflections, which, according to its author's perception, are not only based on but also confined to the intelligible beings that are flashes of understanding. His book, The Central Problems of Brihatriyahi's Philosophy, published in 2008 by Indian Council of Philosophical Research, New Delhi, is a milestone in the field of understanding the world of communication and is widely read by national and international scholars of philosophy and language. Today, we have had the privilege to have him here. We will have a Q&A session. So put your questions in the comment box. We will have a Q&A session after his lecture. I request Professor Tiwari to address. Professor Tiwari.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Datta. Respected Swamiji, Chandrakantanandji, Principal, respected Ekachittanandji, and Head of the Department, Professor Samim Ahmed, and I'm very happy that I saw speaking Professor Ranjana Mukherjee after a long time, 20 years and like that. And my old friend Kumar Mitra is here, but I have not seen him. Perhaps he will be after my lecture. So I'm thankful to the college authorities who invited me to deliver a lecture on nature of man and language. So you see, we find so many philosophers, East and West, defining language, defining man. the nature of man concerned with definition of man. So how to define man? So anthropologists, sociologists, they define man as a rational animal. Some define that it is social animal and so like that. But philosophers, very deep thinking philosophers, Indian classical philosophers, they conceive that yes, there is body and mind, and the mind is a composite of the body and mind. But only by saying that it is mind and body, we do not understand much about that thing. We understand only that it is a mixture of mind and matter. But the question is what is mind and what is matter, and how the two are linked in a man. And even if we explain this question, I doubt that if we will define the nature of man exactly. So there is difference between the conception and concept. We have the concept of man, because of which we know that we all are man. But conception, all have different conceptions of man. For example, you see, Shankaracharya has different conception of man. Swami Vivekananda had different conception of man. Tagore has different conception of man. Iqbal may have different conception of man. And so many conceptions of man are there because they conceptualize the concept in the framework of their constitution of thought, their system. So in a system, when man is defined, it becomes a concept of man. And it is the concept of man that we all know when man is uttered. But the conception of man is the result of theorization, thematization in a system or in a constitution of thought. Therefore, it is very difficult to define the nature of man. But I am trying to define it in a very short period of time. See, the materialist, they interpret man as body and mind, combination of body and mind. But they accept that the material things, material elements are only real, and consciousness is a bioproduct of the matter. Of how this bioproduct is combined, in what combination, this is a different issue. But the thing is that, like Swami, Yaman Roy, he says that though it is a material body, but here is a mind that is produced by the matter, but it has the potency to get the infinite also. So this is the best thought, materialistic thought I ever read on the nature of man, that it is finite, but it has the potency to work out its infinity. Now you see, the other philosophers, they say that yes, man is finite, but it has infinite potency. In what form? Vedantins say that actually the man is infinite, Sajdanand, but due to ignorance, it imposes the jivatva, the limitness of the individual is imposed on the infinite. So the aim of the man is to get that real nature of real infinite nature of the of his own by utmost efforts, sadhana. So when he realizes that he is not a jiva, but rather he is a Sachidanand, he realizes his own nature, true nature. So, but this is very good definition towards approaching the spiritual outlook, yeah, sadhana systems. But philosophically, how they have understood the nature of man. See, when I say that man is a rational animal, yeah, that hardly adds anything as a philosopher to us. It may be a step, but not the whole. Because in Indian system, we have different kind of existences of matter also, different levels of. For example, you see Annamaya Kosh, Pranamaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh, and Vijnanamaya Kosh. At Vijnanamaya Kosh, man is self-conscious because it has thought as its object of consciousness. It can become reflective. It can think. So man by nature is self-conscious being, and the consciousness becomes self-conscious only because there is some object. And what is that object? The thoughts. So thought has no extension and body has extension. But in consciousness, self-conscious stage, the self-conscious man is self-conscious because there is object, that is thought of the external or internal object. There is thought as the object of that self-consciousness. So it is self-conscious. It can think over that, think over the thoughts, think over the idea, think over the concepts. And if the mind confronts with some problem, he can reflect on it, he can resolve the problem and get bliss. So as a bliss providing nature, philosophy is very relevant and very covetous subject for us since the dawn of the culture on the earth. So when I say that man is self-conscious, this means not in isolation, but it is with self-conscious emerges after Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Manomaya. So with taking all the together, the next level is self-conscious, where other animals, they don't have self-consciousness. They may be conscious, they may be subconscious, they may be unconscious. But human special character, I can say the nature is, it is self-conscious. And it becomes self-conscious because it has thought as object that confronts with it, and it feels that, yes, I am self-conscious. At Vijnanamaya Kosh, that is self-conscious stage of human, it has the potency to approach the Anandamaya Kosh. And when he approaches Anandamaya Kosh, being in the self-conscious stage, it can it can perceive the Anandamaya Kosh also. And when he reaches Anandamaya Kosh, he realizes his own nature, that is Satchidananda, that is knowledge, that is pure knowledge, that is light of consciousness is light, that is Satchidananda. Now, about something about language. So when I tell about self-conscious, man is self-conscious. My argument is that it is self-conscious because it has an object, that is thought, idea. And because of that idea, it becomes self-consciousness. Had there been no idea as object, there is no object, there is no sense of saying that man is self-conscious. Now we have to consider thought. as the object of the self-consciousness, this will shed light, much light, on the relation between the language and the self-conscious human, self-conscious nature of the man. So you see, I think that we have no thought without language. So all thought is thought in and through language, infused with language, intertwined with language. So knowledge of the objects are intertwined with language. Why I am saying? I'm not saying it only because I want to give very importance to language. My point is that if humans are spiritual or rational being even, it is because they have thought. Their mind flashes, and the flashes are thoughts. Mind is not a machine that produces the knowledge. Mind is not a company that construct or manufacture knowledge through the help of so many labors and machines. Mind is a flashing being. Mind is a self-conscious being. What it flashes is the object of self-conscious, and because of which man is distinguished as self-conscious being. So about thought, let us understand the thought. So no thought is possible without language. We cannot think, we cannot even imagine. We can even in the dream, if we see elephant, snake, and all that, a beautiful city in the dream, that is also not wired up in isolation with language. So isolated from the language, no thought is possible. Knowledge ceases to be so if isolated from the language. So what do I want to say by saying that knowledge is infused with language? Language infuses language and knowledge. No knowledge is possible without language. It is a cognitive stage, self-conscious stage. And, in our Indian system, language is understood with a metaphysical background. That metaphysical background is at different levels. For example, you see Baikhari, Madhyama, Pasyanti, and Para. You all are very great scholars, more knowledgeable than me, you know it. But let me explain to establish my point on man and language. So, Baikhari is what the verbal noises, what we speak, what we utter. But if I ask a question, is language confined only to uttering? Language in Sanskrit is bhasan, bhasa. Bhasa means that which illuminates, that which is by nature illumination, and that illuminates the object. Without language, nothing can be illuminated. So language is light of the consciousness, flashing of the consciousness, and it is non-different from the thought. So there are two theories, Western and other Nyaya and other systems of Indian philosophy. They accept that thought is different, that is original, and language is different, that is a carrier, it carries the thought. So there is no such relation between them because we never find a thought wide of language. All thought is thought in language, through language. So rather, for a philosopher, our knowledge is confined and based on only to language because no thought is possible without language. Even if you say that God and other things, we understand only when this language is revealed, expressed in the mind. So had the language not expressed in the mind, no thought is comprehensible to us. Because you see, if I say, let me try to understand the things. Let me say that it is mobile. Why I say that it is a mobile? Because it has a shape, size, material, and it is popularly used for a function. That's why I can say it a mobile. So determination of the mobile is its quality, length, breadth, and material, form, size, and all that. But what determines the knowledge of the mobile? Idea of the mobile. So mobile is a material thing, but the idea of mobile is not a material thing that to be determined by the length, breadth, and size, because there is no possibility of length, breadth in knowledge, in thought. So how our knowledge is determinate thought? What determines the thoughts? If I ask a question, what determines the thoughts? The only answer is that only the language determines the thought. So the language that determines the thought is not what we speak. It is called dhvaniya only, baikhari, verbal noises. So language is not limited to dhvaniya. Well, it is not only file and dispatch. I am speaking and you are listening. It is knowledge, expression of the knowledge. So if it is the expression of knowledge, it must be thought. So thought of language, that is called madhyama. The language at thought level, thought. And if you ask a question that thought is directly expressed, so I will come to that. And if we ask a question, what is the substratum of the thought? Ontological, or you can say metaphysical substratum of the thought. So we go to the pasyanti. By imposition, we know pasyanti as the ontological substratum of the thoughts. So baikhari is grossest, madhyama is subtle, and pasyanti is subtler. And above that, we go to the para, that is pure consciousness, that is sometimes called Brahman, the indeterminate. There is no object. There is no question of object. It is all. Sarvam khalidam Brahma. So there is no limiter. Consciousness, no extension can limit the consciousness. Consciousness is everywhere, infinite. And the whole extension cannot limit. Though it is true that extension can limit its extension only, it cannot limit the non-extended thought, non-extended consciousness, the human thought. So madhyama as the cause of the baikhari, verbal noises, is accepted. Because if I have no knowledge, there will be no incentive to speak, and then there is no speech possible. There is knowledge, idea in my mind, which I want to communicate with you, to speak to you, to communicate with, to share with you. And therefore, there is expectancy to speak. And when there is expectancy to speak, the air, pranavayu, the air from the Jaఠaragni, digestive organ, upwards blow. And then it comes to the murdha, that is murdha. And collided from it, it comes to the mouth and vibrating the teeth, lips, and other parts, speaking parts, it comes out, vibrations come out. So what we say that we speak, that is only vibrations, not the language, not the verbal swine even. When the verbal swines are revolved, revolved in the ears, the ears are tools that transform the vibration into verbal noises. So suppose this wall has no ears. And suppose there are some persons whose ears are not working properly. There is defect in the ears. He cannot transfer the verbal sound into vibrations into verbal sounds. So ears are also necessary for the verbal sounds, because what we speak is only vibrations. These vibrations are transformed by the ears, and then it expresses the madhyama sabda, the language as the idea in the mind, and that's why we know that what is spoken. We know that. So that is madhyama sabda. So philosophers are mostly concerned. They are thinkers. They are philosophers. They reflect over. So they are concerned when they do philosophy. They are devoted to that madhyama stage. Madhyama stage. They work with the idea. They do with the idea. They do with the world of the knowing, not with the word of doing. So there is difference between the word of doing and the word of knowing. But the word of knowing is the incentive to the word of doing. So this way, man lives in the two words, the word of the man doing and the word of the knowing. The knowing word, his knowing word is philosophically important, and that comprises the thought of language and the thought of meaning, the thought of meaning. So knowledge is the thought of language and the thought of language. So is there any difference between the thought of language and the thought of meaning? So you see, there is difference. And that's why we understand language different from the thought. Sometimes we alienate them also. But the difference is that first the language is expressed by the mind. And when the language is expressed, it non-differently expresses the meaning. So for Vyakaran tradition, meaning is not what is there outside. We never care about the things outside, whether they exist, non-exist, whether they are eternal, non-eternal. But Patanjali says, Kim va uten idam nityam anityam va. They are eternal, non-eternal. We are not concerned with things outside. We are philosophers, Shabdika. Shabdika nam. Tu yoyam sabda soyam artha. The language is meaning. The thought is the thought infused by language. So now this is a very genuine contribution of India, because if you accept that only dhvaniya are the language is confined only to verbal noises, and thought is isolated from language. So there will be so many imaginary conceptions. Like you see, Wittgenstein, he conceived of so many. He constructed so many concepts: language representation, world representation, social meaning, and so many conceptions he framed. But despite that, he accepted that language is dead if it is not attached with the language. But here you see, we are not giving primacy to meaning. We are giving primacy to the language, because language is thought. It is the thought that expresses the meaning non-differently. If there is no thought of language, there is no thought of meaning. So our knowledge is confined. We can know only the thought of language and the thought of the meaning expressed by the language. So this is because we accept the thought level of language. The third is Pasyanti level. The yogins, they by practice, Swamiji knows, they by practice knows the difference of the language and meaning even at the Pasyanti stage, as Nagesh Bhatt says. And after that, one becomes one with the Brahman by realizing the Brahman. That is para stage of the language. So language is consciousness. Its gaseous form is Baikhari that we speak, and the subtle part is thought, and the subtler part is uh, level is subtlest level is Pasyanti, and the subtlest one the uh, para. So some philosophers say that some scholars say that Bhartihari does not accept para as a stage. So there is also a logic, because he is concerned mostly with explaining the word of communication, the word of the language and meaning, and for explaining, for interpreting the language and meaning, um, Madhyama is sufficient. And uh, as a philosopher, he was always conscious of how do we accept this without accepting some proofs or some sources of knowing. So he says that we know the Baikhari by our senses. You speak and I listen. We know it by perception. So we perceive the letters written on the paper. So by perception, either by the if it is written, it is by the eye perception. If it is spoken, it is by the ear perception. So it is perception that we know the verbal noises, except the existence of the verbal noises. Madhyama, it is directly expressed, and we cannot deny what is expressed in our mind. Ah, so it is thought. We cannot deny our thought, existence of thought. Even the thought of a negative or negation is also there. So we cannot deny even the negation. And likewise, it is directly revealed, so one cannot doubt. If he doubts about the existence of Madhyama Sabda, Madhyama level of speech language, he denies his own existence. And that at that stage, Shankaracharya maxim is very important to quote. Yadev nirakarta tadev tasya swarupam bhavati. That negation will be the nature of your the negator. So with these few words, I think that I am very thankful to you all because of giving me occasion to share my views on the very important topic, and the college is sounds very spiritual, and we have so many imagination, so many dedication to Paramhans, Swami Paramhans, and Swami Vivekananda. We have. So with all this respect, I pay my namaste to you all. Thank you. Thank you, Shobitji.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If anybody have any questions, you can ask sir on the comment box. We will forward.
Anybody can ask. I'm here. I'm here. Any question from the audience side? So many scholars are there. Oh, Datta sir, Is there any question?
Professor Tiwari, thank you for your nice presentation regarding in your topic. I think our audience are pleased in your particular topic. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Raja, our anchor Raja Sharma. Raja Sharma.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible and visible also. Please conclude in the first day session and announce our tomorrow's program in our present audience.
Okay. Today we had the first session is lecture series. Tomorrow we'll have the next session. Tomorrow we will have two other resource persons from whom we may get the privilege to be enlightened enough in philosophy. So I think this is we have had the time to conclude right now. Thank you one and all who have participated in this program, in this lecture series. Thank you.
Okay. Now we are meet tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'm requested to all of our audience, please come tomorrow at 11 a.m. The first lecture tomorrow delivered as Professor Kumar Mitra. So thank you everyone.